Head-to-head. The only debate this state election. Roger Cook, Libby Mettam. Their promises put to the test by the toughest political reporters in Perth. A 7 News WA Decides exclusive.
Good evening and welcome to the studios of Channel 7. The McGowan Labor government landslide made history. Not just here in WA, but right around the country. Now, though, the most popular premier in a lifetime is gone. Tonight, Labor leader Roger Cook's pitched to win power off his own campaign and remain WA premier for 4 more years. And Libby Mettam will pitch to crawl back from the worst Liberal defeat in history, which left them with just 2 seats, while fending off leadership speculation. The panellists to keep them honest tonight, 7 News veteran state political reporter Jeff Parry and the West Australian state political editor Jessica Page. We have 5 topics to get through tonight, decided upon by the key issues that we've seen unfold during this election campaign. So each leader will be given 45 seconds to give a general statement. A countdown clock will appear on screen, and the leaders also have a clock to watch to time their delivery. Then our panel will quiz the leaders during 3.5 minutes of debate. And the leaders can also directly address each other during this time. Now, we want to keep this short and sharp to get you, our viewers, the answers without the waffle and help you decide how to cast your votes. We have a group of voters independently chosen to watch the debate from our broadcast centre. They'll be listening and watching to how each leader responds and then give feedback into the 7 News needle, and that will reveal our winner a little bit later. Now, we held a coin toss earlier. Roger Cook called heads and he won the toss, so he will be answering first and also have the final say at the end of the debate. So let's begin, shall we? Our first question tonight is on the cost of living crisis. To both of our leaders, the question is, how would your government make WA more affordable? As I mentioned, Mr Cook won the toss, so he will speak first.
When I was first elected in June 2023, I made 2 commitments. 1, that I'd keep the economy the strongest in the nation. 2, that we would help those who are doing it tough. And that's what we've done. Over the past 12 months, we've provided over $1 billion in cost of living measures. And that includes our household electricity credit, the WA student assistance payment, our regional capped airfares. And at this election, we've committed to more, another $1 billion of measures designed to assist people with the cost of living. And that includes another round of WA student assistance payments, our household battery rebate. We're continuing to make sure that we make public transport more affordable by our suburban flat fare. We are making sure that we focus on the cost of living.
It's quite clear that while we've experienced the largest boom our state has ever seen, under the Cook Labor government, they've been more interested in themselves rather than delivering real cost of living relief for Western Australian families. We've seen the highest rate of government spending in 15 years outside of COVID, with the rate of inflation in WA the highest in the nation, meaning real wages are at 2011 levels. We are committed to meaningful cost of living measures, cutting Labor's electricity tax, lowering fees and charges for families, as well as stopping wasteful spending.
And my first question is to you, Mr Cook. Look, there is a lot of wealth in this state, but there's an awful lot of poverty too. Families with 2 jobs who still struggle with the rent and food. Can you honestly say that these people are better off after 8 years of Labor? And please don't mention free zoo tickets.
Well, we know that people are doing it tough, and that's why we've provided over $1 billion in cost of living measures. It runs across 20 different programs and initiatives, the length and breadth of this great state. People living in the regions, people living in the metropolitan area have all benefited from our cost of living measures. And we're in this position because we've kept the economy strong. We've looked after the state's finances and made sure, therefore, we're in a position to give back, to provide cost of living measures to the people of Western Australia.
Mr Cook, everyone has benefited, but those that need it most haven't benefited more? Should it have been better targeted?
Well, that's not true. We have made sure that our cost of living measures go to those who need it most. Now, people in all walks of life are struggling with the cost of living today, but we know that those, for instance, who catch public transport, they are feeling it the most. That's why we've just had our summer of free public transport, free transport on a Sunday. And one of our commitments is to now have a flat suburban fare. So that means those people who are having to catch the train to work or to appointments can do so at a much more affordable rate.
But ask any of the relief agencies and they're telling you their queues are longer and longer with every passing month. I mean, you're spending a lot of money, but it's not touching the sides.
Well, and that's why we've partnered with our not-for-profit organisations to launch our rent relief program, which has kept over 2,000 Western Australian families with a roof over their heads. And we'll do more, and that's what we've committed to in this election.
Ms Mettam, in May last year, in a press release, you said that meaningful steps on cost of living should include freezing fees and charges. Since then, you haven't repeated that pledge. If elected, will you be freezing electricity prices, water prices and car rego?
We made that statement in the lead up to the budget. We gave a number of options to Roger Cook and the government, who've boasted about the largest boom our state has ever seen, not through good management, but through record royalties and a GST fix delivered by somebody else. We put forward a number of different measures which the Premier and the government could have taken up but failed to do so.
So is that a no? You're not promising
We have
that?
outlined a number of different measures, such as reducing electricity by cutting Labor's electricity tax, targeted spending, tripling the grandparents' rate, doubling the cost of living rebate for seniors, a targeted approach which respects Western Australians' taxpayers' money, not throwing money away at zoo, free tickets to the zoo or the Royal Show. It is about respecting taxpayers' money and ensuring it is most targeted.
Is freezing fees still part of your plan? And if not, have you already broken a promise?
Absolutely not. I reject that. As I have stated, we put forward a range of different measures which the Cook Labor government could have taken up in the lead up to the budget. There were a number of options available. We have a targeted approach to cost of living which respects taxpayers' dollars, and we will not be wasting money on race cars on the Swan.
Okay. Thank you to both of our leaders. The time gets away from us very quickly, doesn't it? But we need to move on to health now, another dominant issue during this campaign, under a picture of ambulance ramping, hospital delays and controversy over the new women's hospital. Our question number 2 to both leaders: how will your party guarantee better health outcomes for West Australians? Libby Mettam, your time starts now.
We will reduce ambulance ramping by 20% from day one with our urgent care clinics. We will invest in our local workforce with the most attractive incentives for nurses to study and work in our hospitals, as well as GPs. We will build capacity in our hospital system, as well as provide a vision for the future of health. The Women's and Babies Hospital will be at the only location considered world-class and backed by our top clinicians. We will also plan for the building of Royal Perth Hospital, a rebuild into the future as well.
Over the past 4 years, WA Labor has invested since 2017, over $14 billion extra in healthcare. That's led to us in the last 3 years alone and able to expand our hospital system by 800 beds, 4,400 new nurses, 1,800 new doctors, a whopping 30% increase in our workforce. And we'll do more. We've committed $100 million to expand the ED at RPH, $100 million to expand the ED at Midland Hospital. We are committed to building the Women's and Newborns Hospital at Murdoch today, not in 10 years' time once you're trying to undertake that project at QE2. We put Labor first. We put health first.
Yeah, Labor
WA
first.
Labor always does. perform best in healthcare.
You just said it, Roger Cook. You're putting Labor first instead of the people of Western Australia first.
Mr Cook, and thank you for both finishing up there. Mr Cook, you called 1,000 hours of ambulance ramping a crisis when you were in opposition. It was chaos, you said. By the last election, it was more than 4,000 hours, a record. Since then, the record's been broken. More than 6,000 hours in August, 5,300 hours just recently in January. Why is it getting worse, not better, and when will you fix it?
Well, we all know all hospital systems were challenged in the post-pandemic period. That was a situation that occurred right around the world, and we actually reduced ambulance ramping by a whopping 20% last financial year. Now, there's always challenges in any hospital system. We've actually reduced elective surgery wait times by 30%, but our hospitals continue to be challenged. That's why we're investing so heavily in new EDs at Royal Perth Hospital and Midland Hospital.
Mr.
In
Cook,
addition to that, we're also increasing the number of aged care beds by 500. That means we can move more patients through the system and get better care there.
Yeah, I know, but you cannot ignore the fact that back in the day when ambulance ramping was at 1,000 hours, you were calling it a crisis, and it's now at 5. Now, it comes back to haunt you, I know, but you've never really successfully answered it.
But the Liberals at the time said that they gave up.
Yeah,
they didn't
but you're in government
now. It's a crisis
now.
under you. It's a crisis under you.
The Liberals at the time said they had given up and they had no answers when it comes to ambulance ramping. We do have answers. We've now got our virtual EDs.
But your
We're
answers
integrating
haven't worked,
digital
have they?
care. We've got a whole-of-system approach. And we know that our doctors and nurses working on the front line are doing an amazing job in a difficult situation. Investing in our healthcare system is the key. An extra 800 beds in the last 3 years alone, a 30% increase in workforce. That gives us the capacity to actually address these demand concerns.
It's a long answer, but it's not the true answer, is it?
Mr. Cook,
ramping has gone up under you.
When will the investment you've just talked about pay dividends? When will ramping get back under 2,000 hours?
You'll continue to see a downward trajectory of ambulance ramping and elective surgery wait times. You'll continue to see people in EDs given world-class health care, and we'll continue to work to invest in our hospital system. Labor always invests in healthcare. The Liberals always privatise. They privatise the Joondalup Hospital, the Peel Hospital, the Midland Hospital, services at Fiona Stanley Hospital. Only
Let's
WA
talk about
Labor
the Women's Hospital. Let's talk about the
I want to ask Libby about your move to move the hospital, the baby's hospital, back to Nedlands from Murdoch. It was largely based on the travel time between both hospitals, or the hospital in Murdoch and Perth Children's Hospital. There were 31,000 babies born in WA this year, or last year. Only 20% were born at King Edward. So what about the 24,000 that face an even longer journey? I mean, this is just scaremongering.
Absolutely not. What we're talking about with the Women's and Babies Hospital, and Roger Cook knows this, is we're talking about births that are high risk.
Yeah, but
higher
there are
risk.
high risk births in every hospital, and not of them, and including babies who have a much longer journey.
We are talking about situations where newborns require special cardiac surgery.
So how will you mitigate the risk at QE2?
Surgery. How we will mitigate it is in the government's own business case, which states that the Women's and Babies Hospital can be built within 10 years.
Thank you, Libby. We are out of time on health, I'm afraid. Always a contentious topic, as is our next one. Topic 3, housing. A major crisis in this state made worse by builders going bust and a tradie shortage. So to both of our leaders, how would you solve affordability issues and general building problems? First to you, Mr Cook.
We're building homes like never before. Over 19,000 homes were built in the last 12 months alone, which is a 7-year record for Western Australia. And we have 23,000 homes being built today. We have increased the workforce for our residential construction industry by 30,000 people. And that's because we've made TAFE affordable. Free TAFE courses for carpenters, plasterers, electricians, making sure that we have the workforce available so our great residential construction industry can get moving. We've already seen a significant lift in the residential vacancy rate from 0.7% to 2%. So we're seeing green shoots of hope and optimism in relation to housing in WA.
We will start straight away. We will lock land. We will streamline approvals. We will cut stamp duty for first home buyers and seniors that want to downsize. It is inexcusable during the largest boom our state has ever seen that we have a situation where we have less social housing now than pre-2017. The government have been focused on the wrong priorities and housing has not been one of them.
Look, both parties have made big claims about solving housing. The approvals process, which is important in all of this, was overhauled by Labor and took local government largely out of that. Will you maintain those approval processes?
Well, our approach will recognise that every electorate, every region or neighbourhood has unique qualities. But what we will do is ensure that we listen to the community, but also manage that with certainty when it comes to investment. As well as the local planning scheme. And what we've seen under this government...
You've got a candidate in Cottesloe who used to be in charge of the Property Council. She's now opposed to big development.
We are seeing communities sidelined under the Cook Labor government.
Yeah, but
that does not mean...
suggesting that you've got someone now in one of your reddest of red seats who is opposed to development.
She's not opposed to development. She is supportive of good strategic planning, which ensures that there is not ad hoc development, which is what we have seen under the Cook Labor government.
Mr Cook, you spoke about green shoots. Have they come too little too late? Social housing numbers went backwards in your first 4 years in government. You've blamed the Barnett government, you've blamed Paul White, but are you also now playing catch-up because you prioritised Metronet ahead of housing?
Well, we inherited a dilapidated housing stock when we took office in 2017. Our first term was taken up with exercises of upgrading the current stock that we had. Remember Brownlee Towers? We had to actually take care of that. That was left neglected by the Barnett government. And the Libby has, the leader of the Liberal Party, has now just admitted that they will put their foot back on the hose of residential construction in Western Australia.
But you delayed construction.
We've made slashed red tape, freed up land and built more social homes and put more rentals on the market. And the Liberal Party will put their foot back on the hose.
Absolute
Make
rubbish.
sure they tie builders up in red tape by dragging our approval system back to the dark ages.
Yeah, well, when are you going to... I mean, realistically, if you get this next 4 years in government, when are you going to fix it? 23,000
homes are being built today, and 19,900 have been built in the last 12 months.
You're still way behind the targets that have been set.
That is a 7-year record. And one of the key indicators we use is to understand what is the rental housing stock that's available. That's gone from a 0.7% vacancy rate in September last year to now 2%. So you're seeing much more homes coming on the market, onto the rental market. That puts downward pressure on rentals and makes sure there's more available.
You haven't even set a target for social housing. How can you criticise the Labor for falling short of their target when you haven't even set one?
Labor have dominated 2 houses of Parliament, the most powerful government our state has ever seen.
But if you want to be Premier, what will be your target for social housing?
Well, we'd like to increase the social housing stock
by
for
how
starters.
Much?
And how?
By a reasonable amount. And
what's a
going
reasonable
backwards,
amount?
We will not be going backwards.
What is
we
a
will be
reasonable
going
amount?
forwards. And we will be ensuring that we make this a priority.
What is a
we will not be
reasonable
prioritising pet projects
Is there a number or not? Is there a number?
Housing.
Is there a number?
There's not a number.
We are doing our very best to get some succinct answers. You can see that, I hope. But let's move on now to topic 4 tonight. We shift our focus to law and order, and certainly the DV crisis has sharpened focus on police numbers and the judicial system. So to our leaders, and we start with you this time, Libby. How will your party make WA safer?
We have a multifaceted approach. What is quite clear during the largest boom our state has ever seen is that violent crime and family and domestic violence is on the rise. Our priority is putting more police on the beat and in the community with 500 additional police officers as well as 300 equivalent police officers as well. There will also be a full complement of the FDV unit. We are also committing to strengthening our judicial system, given we understand there's a lack of consequence when it comes to this area, and people are sick to death of not feeling safe in their homes and in their communities.
Community safety is obviously a very large focus for my WA Labor government, and my government has passed laws, the harshest laws, knife laws, the harshest gun laws, the harshest bikie laws in the country to make sure we continue to keep our community safe. And family and domestic violence has been a key focus for us. We've increased spending by $500 million since 2021 alone. We have increased the number of refuge beds by 81, with another 73 in the pipeline, and continue to be formed by people with lived experience to make sure that we continue to eliminate family and domestic violence in our community. But look at the Liberal Party. They're the ones that closed down a shelter for women escaping family and domestic violence in Perth with their Churchlands candidate.
Yes, and just to bring you to domestic violence, WA has the highest domestic violence rates in the country. There's no upside on this. Reports are going up. In fact, it's thought to be underreported. So how can women have faith in your government that they're going to be protected in their homes or anywhere?
Well, I'm glad people feel now that they have the confidence to come forward and make complaints to police. And we've changed the way police respond to family and domestic violence incidents to ensure that they lay charges and that they assist people who are the subject to family and domestic violence. That includes a full-time supervisor that can assist cops on the front line to look after them, to help them help people who are the subject of family and domestic violence. New laws around the perpetrators of family and domestic violence,
and laws that you have, and laws
significantly higher services for being funded.
And laws you've talked about and haven't put into effect, coercive control. You missed that, baby.
We were advised by the people with lived experience that they didn't want the laws introduced before an education campaign. And so we followed the advice of people with lived experience. Part of the role of leadership is about listening to the people who have had the experience on the ground. And all our lived experience interest groups said, please educate the community first before you bring in laws. They didn't do that in New South Wales and Queensland, and there they've had no prosecutions as a result of their hurried introduction of those laws.
On coercive control, Ms Mettam, you have pledged to make those laws a priority, but you haven't set a time frame either.
We have said that we will do it in our first 12 months of office. It is inexcusable that this government have prioritised their own electoral skin, electoral reforms ahead of the coercive control legislation, which we have seen is delivered in other jurisdictions as well as overseas as well.
You have put some numbers on police. You've promised to recruit an extra 500 officers and an extra 300 equivalent via overtime. But that's not an extra 300 officers on the beat per day, is it? And yet that's what your advertising suggests it is?
It is the equivalent of 300 FTE over a 12-month period.
No, but you flubbed
it is a policy.
You flubbed it because you said $300, 300 police, extra police from day one.
It is a policy which we will deliver from day one.
No, you won't.
It has been supported.
You can't do the numbers, and you've admitted
It has been supported by the WA Police Union. It represents an additional $19,000, which an officer, a 32-year-old officer, can earn. During a cost of living crisis,
you've conceded
and
it
it's
depends
not compulsory.
on them volunteering. They might do an hour a fortnight, they might do 8 hours a fortnight. You don't know.
We
how
do
many
know
hours it
because
will
we
equate
have
to.
worked with the police union on this. They have welcomed this policy. It is part of a broader policy where we will also have police dogs, police working or retiring police officers in our schools. There will be police on our roads as part of a full complement of the traffic unit. And when it comes to police, and the largest exodus of police we have seen in Western Australia. What is the Labor Party's policy? What if they brought this
Can I just get a quick one in
election?
Can I get a quick one in for you, Mr Cook? We saw a Liberal MP's car jacked while she was standing next to it and used in a robbery in Carnarvon. Regional crime, youth crime. How are you going to fix that? Just quickly, sorry.
Well, we have an extra 800 cops on the beat today, and crime is actually lower today than it was under the Liberals in 2016, despite an extra 500,000 people coming to Western Australia in that time.
Not violent crime.
You might have to pick that one up again at a later date. I think, Jeff, we're out of time on Law and Order. We move now to leadership. As we know, Roger Cook replaced Mark McGowan, who won in a landslide in 2021. Mr Cook now hopes to become popular in his own right, while Libby Mettam has the ongoing shadow of Basil Zemplis hovering. So to both leaders, why are you the leader that WA should trust? Mr Cook, your time starts now.
In times of global troubles, you need a steady hand at the wheel. You need experienced leadership. And only WA Labor can provide that leadership to make sure Western Australia can continue to navigate the next 4 years. But we don't just want to navigate it, we want to continue to see the growth in jobs. Over 343,000 jobs created during our time in government. And we want to do more. We want to continue to provide cost of living relief, more housing, faster and more affordable, and continued strong investment in our healthcare system. We will make sure that Western Australia remains the strongest economy in the country. When we inherited it, it was the weakest. Today it is the strongest, and we'll continue to make sure that Western Australians get the jobs that they deserve.
Leadership is about listening. It's about making tough decisions, and it is about focusing on the right priorities with real solutions. And while Western Australia has experienced the largest boom our state has ever seen, and that this Cook Labor government have enjoyed the dominance of 2 houses in Parliament, they have not delivered. We've got a cost of living crisis, we've got a housing crisis, we've got a broken health system, and law and order, violent crime is up 42% and out of control. Leadership is also about focusing on the right priorities, and that's what we're focused on. We're not focused on ourselves or shiny projects.
Mr Cook, people voted for Mark McGowan in 2021. He resigned halfway through, tired, exhausted. Will you serve a full term? And if that's only a maybe, who are people really voting for?
Being the Premier of Western Australia is the most rewarding job in the world, and it is a privilege and an honour to be able to serve. I had the opportunity to be elected just 18 months ago. I'm just getting started, and I very much look forward to seeing out a full term if we have the opportunity to see Western Australia in a position for WA's Labor agenda to be implemented in full.
Labor's agenda.
Oh, OK, all right.
Sorry, do you want me to keep going?
Go, Ms Mettam.
Well, my agenda is Western Australians' agenda. My focus is on you in the household. I know that over the last 8 years, it's never been more tough to put food on the table or a roof over your head. I know the frustration that whilst we are enjoying the largest boom in the state's history, our health outcomes are the worst in the nation. That's simply not good enough.
OK, can I ask you, just to change topics here. Ms Mettam, you were taken to task by a 17-year-old schoolgirl recently because you refused to stand in front of an Aboriginal flag. Can I take you a little bit further? If you become Premier, will you put an end to Welcome to Country and stop the payments to the people who do it?
That is not my focus.
Why not?
My comments in relation to the flag are the fact that as a state and as a nation, we should be united behind 2 flags which represent all of us and not be divided by race.
So do you understand then the hurt and the issues that it causes for Aboriginal people? To deny them that?
This is an issue of unity. It is about Western Australians being united together, not by race, but by the fact that we are all Western Australians. We are all Australians together.
What about Welcome to Country then? Because there was a move after the Voice, the vote failed to pass the Voice, to get rid of a lot of Welcome to Country. Do you endorse that? You backed Peter Dutton in his decision not to stand in front of the flag. So will you get rid of Welcome to Country?
My focus is on fixing our broken health system, addressing cost of living pressures, law and order, and ensuring we have more houses. That is my focus. I was asked a question in relation to the flag, and the flag that represents Western Australians and Australians.
Ms Mettam, will
it
you
is
still
2 flags.
be Liberal leader on March 9 if you lose the election?
I'm confident in my leadership. I'm confident in the team that we are putting together and are focused on the issues that matter to Western Australians. And when I'm out and about talking to the people across the Western Australian community, what they want to know is how we're going to fix the mess that's been created over the last 8 years.
Will Basil Zemplis be your deputy?
On the subject of leadership, the Liberals have had 5 leaders in the last 8 years. And 2 short months ago, Basil Zemplis, who Libby described as a coward in the shadow, tried to topple her as leader. Quite frankly, the Liberals are a mess. They're chaotic, they're dysfunctional, they're fighting amongst themselves. And when they're fighting amongst themselves, they can't fight for you. They can't fight for Western Australia.
Absolute rubbish.
All right, thank you. We'll leave that final topic there for the moment. Allow our leaders just for a moment to draw breath. When we come back, though, a final question for both of our guests and then the verdict from the live studio audience as the 7 News Needle declares a winner. Back soon. Welcome back. Our leaders now have a final 1 minute and 30 seconds to use for a final chance to convince you to vote for their party. So for the first final say, here's Liberal leader Libby Mettam.
Thank you. 4 years ago, Western Australians put their trust in Labor, giving Mark McGowan a free hand with an overwhelming election win. But pretty soon McGowan was gone, and instead we have the current Premier Roger Cook, our failed health minister who was installed by the unions. And true to form and his government, they have failed in every area that matters to ordinary Western Australians. We have a failing health system, the worst housing crisis our state has seen, skyrocketing household fees and charges and a cost of living crisis and an explosion in violent crime. On every measure, Labor have failed the people who put their trust in them for 4 years, instead of putting their energy into the basic essentials that really matter. And like police and hospitals, we have a focus on car racing circuits, rock concerts and a proposed new rugby team. Instead of lasting reforms to reduce the burden on households of government charges, we have unsustainable one-off sugar hits. Our plan will be about easing cost of living pressures, scrapping Labor's electricity tax, stop it wasteful spending and lowering fees and charges for families. Whether you're in the city or in the region, my team understands what matters to you. I want to make sure your voice is heard, your needs are met by a government that is just focused on you. We have real priorities and solutions to help you at home.
Western Australia, together we have created the strongest economy in the nation. 343,000 jobs have been created during our time of office. And we can do more. From these strong foundations of economic success, we can do more. We can diversify our economy. We can make things here. And our Made in WA plan is about bringing manufacturing back to the heart of our economy. A re-elected WA Labor government will continue to provide cost of living relief, continue to make sure that we grow our housing, houses sooner, more affordable, and will continue to engage in a massive expansion of our hospital system. That's WA Labor's commitment. WA is at the crossroads. We can either go to a chaotic and dysfunctional Liberal Party who are fighting amongst themselves, and if they're fighting with each other, they're not fighting for you. Or a WA Labor team, a team with experience. Now is the time for a steady hand at the wheel. We'll continue to make sure that our management of the economy remains strong. We'll keep the finances strong, just like we retained our AAA credit rating and got our fair share of the GST. We've worked hard and we'll deliver. And because only WA Labor has a plan to take this state forward, and only WA Labor will do what's right for WA.
Thank you for that. When we come back, our audience gives their verdict. The 7 News Needle declares a winner. Back soon. Welcome back. So we've had an audience independently selected to listen in on the debate tonight and give their verdict. They've used the last commercial break to feed their details into the 7 News Needle. The audience was made up of 25 people, including a mix of party-decided voters and those who are yet to make up their minds. So the verdict from the 7 News Needle tonight is the audience leaning towards a Roger Cook Labor victory. But what do you think? Let us know. Let's get a final thought now from our panellists, Jess and Jeff. Over to you.
Well, Tim, I'm not sure every question was actually answered, but I do think we did ventilate the main points of contention. Both leaders are focused on cost of living, health and housing, but their solutions are very different, perhaps none of them perfect.
And I know while it's convenient for people to vote early, pre-polling started today, it's convenient for them, but just to go in and tick a box, or number a box actually, and to switch off. But I think that's unfortunate. Perhaps it's an indication of how the voting public view our politicians and our political system these days. That's my thought.
You've got a couple more weeks to grill them, Jess and Jeff, and I'm sure you'll do that with gusto. Thank you very much. So to debrief on our audience results and the topics from tonight, head now to 7news.com.au and thewest.com.au. And for full reaction, see tomorrow's West Australian and then join Rick and Sue for 7 News at 6. Thanks for your company. Enjoy your evening. Bye for now.